So for me, TIE is a mission. It is something which I, look forward to giving back from. The definition of entrepreneurship as it existed in, say, Silicon Valley was not the definition of entrepreneurship here. A mentor is usually not project-based. A mentor is usually for life. People are interested in not getting stuck in a 9-to-5 job. So I think our time has come.
How does the definition of growth for the startup entrepreneurs have changed these days?
We only invest in growth,
Right.
which is a good way of saying early stage, stay away from me.
Stay
I have
away
no
from me.
patience.
I
have no
time.
patience for you. Like in the sense of I don't like babies.
This episode is going to be highly focused on the journey of startups here in this part of the world, from incubation to growth and beyond. Our guest today has seen the Dubai, UAE, or I would say GCC region's startup ecosystem evolve. President Emeritus of TIE Dubai and a trustee on the global board of TIE. He has mentored many startups, a technology innovator, an angel and early stage investor, and an advisor to many organizations and budding entrepreneurs. He's currently associated with 30 plus startups, organization, and advised many more. Welcome, Mr. PK, to Decoding Growth with Raman. I thank you for accepting my request to do this lively conversation with me, and I welcome you on the show.
Thank you, Raman. It's a pleasure being here.
Before I start, I would like to understand more about TIE Dubai, because you have been associated with TIE Dubai. You are on the global chapter as well. How TIE helps and supports mainly the expats to set up some businesses here in UAE or wider GCC?
So for me, TIE is a mission. It is something which I, look forward to giving back from. So TIE started in early 90s in Silicon Valley and started by, expat founders there. People who were new to that part of the world and new to entrepreneurship and had no support. And so the senior people who had become reasonably successful actually formed this organization to mentor and support the younger ones, the new ones who were coming in, to help them, tell them how to build companies of their own. And that's how the largest organization fostering entrepreneurship globally came into being.
Okay.
And that was TIE. I was one of the co-founders, the chapter here, the Middle East chapter, in 2002.
Okay.
And we formally had the opening in January, very early January of 2003. So we finished 20 years. We're in the 21st year of the chapter out here.
Right.
It started with about less than 10 of us around the Dubai Internet City Lake.
Yeah.
And today we believe we are one of the most vibrant chapters in the TIE networks.
Right.
There's almost 60 chapters globally. It fathoms almost all continents, all parts of the world, with just one mission: fostering entrepreneurship. We were early, in our genesis. We were the first people to talk about entrepreneurship. I still remember, the spelling of entrepreneurship wasn't an easy one when we actually launched, and talk to people about that was difficult. But yes, we started there. And, we also did the first definition of entrepreneurship for this part of the world, because majority of the people who do entrepreneurship or do their companies are people who are, as you term them, expats, people from other parts of the world,
Right.
who started calling Dubai or UAE as their home.
Yeah.
So we realized that the definition of entrepreneurship as it existed in, say, Silicon Valley was not the definition of entrepreneurship here.
Right.
So our research actually told us that the entrepreneurship here means when somebody moves
Right.
from employment to self-employed or build a business and starts becoming a kind of job creator instead of a job seeker.
Right.
That is entrepreneurship here. So small businesses, people actually going out on the limb and risking it are the kind of things. And this is how TIE started supporting entrepreneurs here.
Okay. And how does it differentiate it from the other networking organization which we see, and they all say that we are non-profit organizations?
I know of very few not-for-profit organizations
Okay.
which are in this business. I see a lot of organizations which want something from you or
Okay.
who actually exchange leads and things like that.
Right.
Our method is very different. our biggest pillar is mentoring, where somebody gives you guidance and direction, which is not domain-based, but which is based on making you a successful entrepreneur.
It's a holistic approach, I would say.
It's not just holistic. It's somebody who is benevolent, who's not looking for something in return.
Okay.
You come to me, ask for something. I can have multiple roles. I can be a consultant. I can be an advisor. I can be a coach. I can be a mentor. All of them are different, though a lot of people use them interchangeably.
Right.
But there's subtle differences in there.
Right.
And the biggest difference of a mentor, which in my opinion is the highest level, a mentor is usually not project-based. A mentor is usually for life. Once you click,
Right. Yes.
the gentleman or the lady
Stays with life.
Yes, he stays with you. We run
Okay.
a mentorship program. We actually take over people. We get 1 year of free mentorship.
Okay.
And the whole idea is that you go, you click. Both sides have a right to say, hey, didn't work out, move on.
Okay.
But once you click, you usually continue. My mentees, people who I've mentored, have continued for life. Like,
Yeah.
7 years later, I get a ping and the guy who comes in and wants to have a chat about it.
Right.
So those are the kind of relationships you do. And these are all give back.
Right.
Now, on the other side, we do have other pillars which we support. Networking is one of them. Our events are one of the biggest events globally. We have an exceptionally large network, if you know, 60 chapters globally.
So how many people must be involved in the entire process?
I'm trying to speculate what you mean by process, but I would say globally we have about 1,000, people
Members.
who we call members.
Yeah.
Now, we have a very benevolent, for example, in Dubai, we have an exceptionally benevolent, what we call associate membership, which
Okay.
basically means takers, people who want to run, are unlimited in the sense we allow everybody to come in. We have no membership fee, for example.
Okay.
So we don't put any speed breakers. So
Right.
everybody is welcome. We've also realized, for example, that today entrepreneurship is something which people want to do.
Yeah.
People are interested in not getting stuck in a 9-to-5 job, but try
Yes.
and do that. So I think our time has come. It's good for us to talk about that.
Right.
It's good for us to actually, help that.
So yeah, that's the reason my call to you and requested to record this podcast. And since this all about is growth, right? So when I started with thinking, okay, now how I can sort of share my experiences and how I can invite industry guests like you. And over the time, the growth word has been in the industry or in the startup ecosystem at a very large scale level, I would say. So how does the definition of growth for the startup entrepreneurs have changed these days? And how do you see that change?
See, I think growth is natural for human beings.
Okay.
In the sense, our aspiration is growth.
Okay.
We aspire to be bigger than what we were yesterday.
Right.
Or better than what we were yesterday,
Right.
correct? So that is growth in my opinion. That's a
Right.
part of this.
Right.
But yes, over time, what has happened is growth, has become a moniker used in different ways. Okay, I understand that the venture capital industry has hijacked the word growth. The growth means when you've crossed a, Series A kind of level where you now have product market fit.
Right.
You have a basic organization set up.
Right.
You've got your processes set up. Your
Right.
product is stable. Your product is being bought by people.
Right.
You're probably profitable. If not profitable, at least unit economics have been reached.
Right.
at
So
that
that's the
point-
definition for VCs.
As I said, at that point,
Yeah.
the growth capital comes in.
Okay.
Growth comes in, and that growth capital is, at that point, theoretically, if you put a lot of money, you could see a lot of revenue. Means the curve
Okay.
becomes straighter in that sense.
Okay.
Put here, output is great because you have already solved the basic problems.
Your product market fit is there. People are buying your product. Your processes are set. Your customers.
Your organization is stable. The key leadership is in place.
Okay.
You know how to grow the team.
Right.
Recruitment is there. All those processes are done. So you could, if I put more money, you could hire 10 people. Those kind of things are now straighter, in my
Okay.
opinion. That curve is easy to prove. So that's been hijacked, in my opinion, to a certain extent.
Okay.
By the growth VCs.
Oh,
in the sense, so we say, you know what, we only invest in growth.
Right.
Which is a good way of saying early stage, stay away from
Yeah,
me.
stay
I have
away
no
from me. I
patience.
don't
I have
have
no
time.
patience for you. In the sense, I don't like babies. I only want graduates, that kind of thing.
I only want to enter in somebody's adulthood, I would say.
That's true. So, but again, as I said, different people have different kind of interests, or for that matter,
Right.
their thresholds are different. Their LPs may have put the right kind of rules in place that they only want to have exposure
Right.
at that point. So those things do happen.
Right. So let me take you back in 2000s, right?
Actually,
Early 2000s, I would say, where you had set up the first call center and that customer first sort of thing. And how do you see an importance of that in today's world, right? When you were thinking in those days, and how that has helped in a growth overall trajectory, I would say.
So let me first tell you that it was not that we were smart. Nevet or not knowing enough is actually sometimes good. So we were doing something nobody had ever done before.
Okay.
India till that point, I was super enamored by India. I was very close. I'd done 2 ventures before this. And being an Indian, I could see that India's going to get out, man. India's going to get out. Manmohan Singh had just started doing the changes.
Right.
So there was hope towards our economy opening up. It hadn't opened up.
Right.
And it was just about kind of opening, they will open up possibility of people to kind of, have telecom connectivity, those kind of things which are all controlled, massively controlled. At that point, everybody looked at India initially as an arbitrage opportunity, which basically meant that anything which could be kind of done in New York at $10, India, you could bring it back to Bangalore or some part of India.
So major cost-saving activity.
So arbitrage, that was it. So $1, so you have this $9 arbitrage, correct?
Right.
So it theoretically brought it here, did it. So everything you saw, including the BPO industry, the call center industry, was completely focused on that arbitrage.
Right.
So the business used to work, somebody would pass it to somebody would pass it to somebody, and it would flow down and finally end up reaching some part of India, actually being solved.
Right.
Our naive question, I had just exited my startup from the US and was very, very gung-ho about India, wanted to do that. The question we asked was, who's answering Indian phone calls?
Right.
So everybody's answering American phone calls, and I don't, you were too young probably to know, but there used to be, kind of all stories about accent training, and teaching people about American football teams so that they could have conversations and all that stuff was all the rage.
Right.
And you used to have these experts who would come and teach people how to behave like, say, an American or a or for
even the name change used to
the
be
names
there.
were changed. You acted, you were from this country, this city, that kind of stuff. So you built a whole story around you.
Right.
Okay, all that stuff was there.
Right.
Our question was, so who's doing this in India? Since my early startup in which we had worked, the most places I'd worked was with telcos.
Yeah.
So a few of us asked the question like, okay, how are these telcos in India servicing their customers? Customer support, how is it being done?
Right.
Because we knew here, for example, or 60 other telcos which I used to service, all had call centers.
Right.
Most of them were captive at that time, but they had call centers.
Right.
But Indian telcos did not have call centers, most of them, or they were small or like kind of invisible.
Okay.
You did have call centers which were third party, which were servicing big companies and all that stuff, mostly foreign.
Yeah.
But there was no Indian call center.
Okay.
So
there was no way for Indian customers to reach out to Indian telcos.
My point was that was not my answer to it. Like, I had no idea. My question was, so what are they doing to do that?
Okay.
So I am a telecom client. Who do I call? And does somebody answer?
Right.
Like in the sense. So we realized there was really no major
player.
And we realized that some of them had in-house call centers, and we got the opportunity to pick one of them up. That's how we started Customer First.
Okay.
We started the first day with 16 people. In 3.5 years, we were 6,500 people. So that is the kind of growth we saw.
Okay.
Like hiring people like on a non-stop basis.
Right.
I still remember I used to fly to, from here to Bangalore, where our headquarters was, very frequently.
Right.
And rarely would I be able to enter the office from the front door because all we had was hiring.
Yeah.
So there were like hundreds of people like being hired all the time. So
Right.
we used to, and they would be worried if somebody broke the queue,
Yeah,
correct?
correct.
So we actually would enter from the back,
Right.
which was a great problem to have. And we were
Right.
in 6 cities building large call centers in no time.
Right. So coming to the pandemic, right, which we all have seen very recently. it has changed the way entrepreneurs think these days, and technology has become sort of a must to have things, right? Things don't operate without having a technology. Do you think it has impacted, or it has changed the mindset? Plus, the risk taking appetite has increased for the new age entrepreneurs.
Well, I think a lot of things happened during the pandemic or with the pandemic. We also realized how resilient we were. Like, I remember when the pandemic first hit. So I have in my fund something called the Smart Start House. So we have a house in Palo Alto where my startups used to live. So I remember flying out of there on 28th of Feb. Of 2020. I reached here. At that point, when I flew in here, everybody was like everything's going to close down.
Yeah.
But I think it'll close down for a month or two, but we don't know what is going to happen. So I still remember I was calling all the people, all my startups which were living in their place, go home, man, go home, bang. So we literally pushed them. By 5th of March, we knew serious lockdown coming.
Right.
I think UAE declared lockdown on 14th or something of March, something of that sort.
Yeah.
And during that period, we were able to push out everybody, make them fly to Bangalore, Canada, wherever, just to spread them out and send them home. Because we didn't know, and we thought month, 2 or whatever.
Right.
Within a month, we realized it was going to be far longer than we thought.
Right.
And at that point, the first thought which came in is that none of our startups will survive because you don't know what's going to happen. People who had B2C, there is no C, man.
Right.
So there was no consumer or customer, whatever. Nothing was working. So, but guess what? Not only did they survive, they came out far better.
Right.
Second thing, of course, what saved us was technology. That there was technology available to actually keep kids busy in school.
Yeah.
Our businesses running. Nobody knew what Zoom was, and suddenly Zoom was everything.
Yeah.
So those kind of things happened, and those things scaled up quickly enough to do that.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
Tons of new products were made.
Yeah.
E-commerce and deliveries came of age. Everything started getting delivered. The speed accelerated.
Yes.
What would have taken another 5 years happened in a year.
True.
So if you look at that, acceleration happened.
That's
so
true.
The market, came up. Now, at the same time, lots of money came after technology because they saw, oh, you know what? Technology is it. Now, was it fair or was it too much? Were the valuations high, frothy? Those are discussions which we can have till tomorrow morning and still not reach any conclusion.
Right.
But the truth remains that yes, technology literally saved. It became the center. The realization also came that technology is probably something which is omnipresent, needed everywhere, needed always, those kind of things.
So we've talked about startups in the depth, and you are an investor in many startups, right? So if I may ask, right, how much do you get involved in their executive decisions on a day-to-day basis?
Listen, one of the things which I actively say, and I think I've written about it a lot many times, that we say we are interfering investors.
Okay.
If you do not want interference, don't come to us. If you come to us only for money, you're probably in the wrong place.
Okay.
So if you're going to take money, take it from somebody else.
That answers my question.
Because the fact is, we believe that being there, done that has a value.
Right.
Okay. And we have not looked at it from a financial investment point of view. There are far bigger people with far more money and far more to go down there. And I don't think growth scale is the only thing that
from
returns.
The value creation point of view?
So yes. And I think the biggest value is having the time to help them with value creation. There are a few companies I'm involved later, like board members and stuff like that, because we substantially own a very large portion of the company.
Yeah.
So there are companies which have exceptionally proven our model, So yes, only if you are in that executive position of being a board member or stuff, yes, at a later date. Earlier, you do everything. You're a de facto co-founder.
Okay. So you mentioned about the mentorship, and you said mentorship is not about it's not for short term, and it's highly based on the long term, and you sort of get for your life. So when you do advise, when you do mentorship, does your role changes basis on the startup's journey where they are?
The answer obviously is yes. Okay. Because as they grow up, it's like a kid growing up. When when the kid is too small, you probably teach them how to write. On the other hand, you you check their essays, so the other way around, so growth happens. Okay, that's one.
Okay.
Having been in this space for a very long time and having gone and worked in different geographies and having a far bigger, let's say, umbrella, gives you a value which is sometimes exceptionally helpful for the young startup founder. I say every ditch that you don't fall into is value created anyway.
Okay.
Correct? Now, it sounds contrarian. The only way you can bring value to people is by actually making sure you embed what not to do in them.
Okay.
Okay, that's the difference between a great founder and a good founder. Okay, good founder hears his advisors and does what he's told to do.
Right.
A great founder knows what not to do. The biggest thing that I wait for people is coachability.
Okay.
The founder...
Are they coachable?
People, yeah, so that is the first test.
Okay.
That is the first test. You can tell them the best thing if the guy doesn't hear you. Because we also have another big problem these days, Raman.
Yes.
Which is this whole cult of the invincible founder.
Invincible founders.
This whole cult. Founders are invincible. What you're doing is right. Don't listen to anybody. Just go on. Drill through. Nobody can be perfect. You'll drill through a freaking wall. You'll bang your head on the wall. You have to be open to... Now, I'm not saying be so silly that you hear every monkey and donkey on the road and get swayed by every piece of advice that you get. You should be intelligent enough to do that. But you should also be able to be coachable to understand logic when it's given to you.
So I would say don't surrender, but be coachable. You somewhere said that Burj Al project where that is being built, you could not believe that something is going to happen and something like that can be built. But that project and the government and everybody who was involved in it, they had a vision. And we were having the conversation before this conversation. You told that's where you get to learn the differentiation between sight and vision. Do you think these days entrepreneurs have visions, or it is just the sight that this is what I want to do?
Listen, just to give you, so we complete the story for people who don't know.
Yeah.
So I was a part of the team which put together the technology behind Burj Al Arab. It was technologically it was the first smart city, in my opinion, which was built in 1999. So Dubai was far ahead. And Burj Al Arab was the stamp of ambition of Dubai. When Burj Al Arab got built, people understood that Dubai has, the vision and this aspiration of being the top city, which people see today. And this was 1999. 2nd December 1999, National Day, was the day when Burj Al Arab was actually inaugurated.
Okay.
And when I came here, His Highness gave us a mandate to build the most, the smartest building on earth, and gave us a white canvas. And we ended up building that.
Right.
So that stamp is there. And this is why I always say that when we came in, even we didn't believe that something like this would happen because nobody had ever done this. Nobody had ever done this in the world. And surely nobody had done this in Dubai on this region.
Right.
So this was far ahead from what the norm was, correct?
Right.
So we were aiming for like 200 feet high instantly.
Right.
Okay, so obviously they were, including us, we were worried like, would somebody come?
Yeah.
We build the hotel, will somebody come and even live there? That kind of stuff. And how wrong we were proven, I'm telling you myself. And that is why I always say, I learned the difference between sight and vision. There's a big difference.
Okay. So as a mentor and investor, you must have advised and you must be advising a lot of startups and the organizations. And of course, the entrepreneurs, right? What are the key qualities or the key characteristics you see in them before deciding whether I am going to mentor them or investing in them or not? One was the coachable part, which I have taken, as a note on it. But other than that,
it's one thing which I'll tell you. It's almost never the idea.
Okay.
It's almost never the idea because rare ideas. Like also remember that I spend a lot of time to educate myself. I'm exceptionally kind of mobile in that sense. Yeah. I dare say I do have some good friends who are forward-looking more than you and I.
I was reading somewhere and you were called as an encyclopedia.
I don't know about this. Encyclopedia is finite. I just want to make sure that till the day I die, I remain curious. I'm exceptionally curious. I try to learn new things, and that's why a lot of the new ideas that you see here, I have my footprint on them. But so it is not the idea.
Okay.
It's the execution. Everybody says that ad nauseum. You'll hear that it's not the idea, it's the execution, which is true. But how do you predict execution is probably what is more important.
Okay.
And that comes from two things. One is track record.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody has done this before and you spend enough time on the ground to know more about that person before that person works with you.
Okay.
So if you look at it, what you would find is in all the ecosystems here, I have spent far more time on the ground than most of the people.
Okay.
So I would know most people, even in India. Like you can talk to anybody, they will know PK, they will know me, not because PK is going and asking something, but I would spend the time, try to find out, try to know what's happening. So most of the startup founders I go there, I spend time before I decide. And that comes from peer review.
Okay.
People you've worked with know you far better.
True.
Than people who see your CV or know you socially.
Right.
So that is one. So it's almost majority of the decision depends on the founders.
Okay.
The second test on the founders, besides, of course, coachability, their track record, the other thing is to try and test their resilience. How quickly will they run away? Okay. So funding next round is kind of questionable. Will they run and get the first consulting job that comes their way? Okay. Or would they stay in the trenches, will remain committed? That commitment is very important to see.
Right.
Okay. Those are the kind of things I don't think too many people, do very well.
So
And
I
that is
still
a good
remember,
test.
where I'm just stopping you here. When we were raising seed funds for Ghibli, and I think it was almost 15-20 days. I've been discussing, without naming anybody, I've been discussing this with this guy. We were about to meet somebody who's going to join him. It was a joint investment kind of thing on our seed round. And this guy told me that after 2 days, we'll meet this guy and let's work on the preparations. You work on the PPT, there's that. And we were super busy in doing our stuff. And I was reaching home 11, 12 every day. And this guy knew about it. Why I'm telling you this? Because you touched upon the commitment part. This guy calls me in the morning at 5:30 a.m. and says, can we discuss that PPT? Are you ready with it? And I said, yeah, just give me 5 minutes. Let me open up my laptop. And I was literally sleeping. I did work on it. I worked till 3 or 4. And then immediately we started discussing, and we discussed it for an hour. And I think when I look back, I see that was kind of a test for him to see how he will react at 5:30 a.m.
Well, again, everybody has a different way of trying to gauge that.
Right.
And all of these are individual.
Yeah.
A lot of these are not explainable. They're
Right.
not documented. I don't have a sequence of tick boxes
Correct.
that I do to do
Right.
that. I think it's far
It's
more
very,
gut.
I would say,
it's far more
spontaneous.
far more gut feel.
Yeah.
Spontaneous, yes.
Yeah.
It's also reactions. You
Yeah.
see people, you note them. And as I said,
Right.
I usually spend time with their peers. I usually try to understand as much as possible about the person.
Right.
And that does help. Is the person what is? Because remember, when you're raising or when you're trying to get somebody to kind of join you, or you're at your best, behavior.
Yeah,
Correct?
that's
You
true.
put it up. It's like when somebody is coming for as we say, a wedding proposal. So you're all dressed
You're
up
trying to
very
be
well.
nice.
You're trying to be nice. Everything goes right and correct. But the truth is, your mettle gets tested when things don't go right.
Yeah.
Your value gets tested then.
Right.
And I want to see you then. I want to see how you will behave then is a very important test.
Right. So when you have your skin in the game in so many businesses, right? You have, I would say, 30, 40 plus or 50 plus. I don't know the number. So how do you do the justice to the partnership? And how do you allocate your time to invest with these founders or to meet these founders? How does that work? How does that process work? I know there cannot be a sort of a checklist, but still, if you want to understand.
Have you ever worked in consulting?
Consulting, no.
Okay, so there's something called T&M, time and material kind of
Okay.
thing. So one thing, this isn't T&M.
Okay.
It's not related to time.
Okay.
I can give you one advice or one thing and tell you that would take you 16 years to follow because, you will do, fall, try this. I can say, hey, don't use this company. Okay? Or use this company, for example. That could be equal value. So I don't think it's a function of time. As simple as that. It's a function of mindshare, yes. But remember, I've also seen mindshare depends as much on the founder as much on me. Okay? One of the things which I always tell people in Thai, I used to talk about it, like people think when they join a network, it's like electricity.
Yeah.
So there's a power plug.
Electrify them.
Power plug, you plug yourself in, electricity flows through you.
Yeah.
And joining a network or a relationship like what I just said
Right.
is actually the opposite. Okay, joining is just the enablement. A network is worth what you can take out from it. So what I have seen is people who are hungry, people who are smart, people who know what they want. Remember, you are the person who has the ask, correct?
Right.
So you need to know your ask.
Yes.
I always tell people, listen, even if you don't know a person, if your ask is reasonable
Yeah.
and your ask is clearly defined,
Right.
you'll get your answer. So if your ask is reasonable, in the sense you're not asking the world from somebody, and obviously the person is going to say no,
Yeah.
which you need to know.
Right.
Okay. So I also don't believe in this whole thing about being unreasonable and say, hey, we are hustling. It doesn't work, in my opinion.
Okay. So we are heading towards the end. So just wanted to understand. There's so much of stress these days on the founders as well. And when it comes to performance, when it comes to stress of failing, as you rightly said, right? The commitment. If this doesn't happen, what do I do? So a piece of advice for these entrepreneurs, or because they're fairly new to what they're doing.
When you make a movie, there's one hero.
Okay.
Or the star in the movie.
Right.
And there are like probably thousands of people who are involved in making that movie.
True.
Correct? So I give that same analogy.
Okay.
So if the movie works,
Yeah.
Robert Redford or Shah Rukh Khan becomes the hero and his movie becomes successful. Correct?
Right.
Correct?
Right.
When it fails, his movie fails. Correct?
Right. Not
so
people.
he's the guy whose shoulder the movie is running on. Correct?
Right.
The same story is with the founder. So the founder is the leader.
Yeah.
Okay, so if he succeeds, he gets the maximum. If he fails, he gets the maximum amount of stress and, brickbats, correct?
Right.
So I think that's a par for the course. Okay, so the pressure will come because there are people who are riding your bus, as a founder,
Yeah.
who are working on your vision. So they're depending on you, they're trusting you.
Yeah.
They're spending their time. Remember, you gave them a salary, but you also give that many years of their life, correct? Their commitment. I think the best thing that I always tell people, which is you can do to yourself as a founder, is to be truthful and transparent and communicative.
Okay.
I think these are the words I've seen founders, and I've seen founders who are exceptionally communicative and clear and transparent with their investors. And if the thing doesn't work out, they actually laugh, brush off, and fund the next company. Okay, next idea. Chalo,
Right.
let's do this. Okay. Because they were transparent, everybody saw what was happening. This is what is happening. This is working. This is not working. This is what happened. Nobody questions, the work ethic. Nobody questions the commitment of the founder. When there is no question on that, everybody is reasonable. Because this could have happened to me, correct?
Yeah.
The problem comes when people don't see it, and once it comes suddenly because you are not communicating thus going down failure with them. You communicated it was going all is well, and then you committed it's closed. You cannot do that. When you do that, obviously there'll be questions. But don't try to please people.
Yeah.
And if you don't try to please people, you tell the truth, most spaces your stress level will be lower. So you're not hiding anything. So you're all those things go down.
Yeah.
It's like when you do your homework on time.
Yeah.
Okay. You're happy to go to school, correct?
Yeah.
When you don't do it, that's when you don't go to school.
Right. So what we do in this podcast is that I ask all my guests one question that they would like me to ask my next guest. And they don't know who's my next guest, and even I don't know who's my next guest. So one of my guests have asked one question, and which I'm going to ask you. What makes you satisfied in life?
Seeing the startups and founders and mentees people I've worked with succeed
Okay.
is the biggest satisfaction for me.
You can get.
So that is the biggest success story that you talk
Great.
about.
Thank you very much for this. Moving on to quick rapid fire round, and I have some
You didn't
questions.
ask me what question I want you to ask.
I will come to that as well. I don't know whether you'll be able to name it or not, but it is my duty to ask. One of your favorite startups that you have invested in?
Chalo.
Chalo, in India.
Chalo.com is the biggest bus service in the world today.
Okay.
And I invested in Chalo when it was an idea on a dining table.
Okay, great. Any regret that you have?
Not having invested in more startups, to tell you the truth, because there's a finite number to the way I invest.
Okay. What is the most memorable piece of advice you have received as an entrepreneur or an investor?
Don't try to run their company. Don't
Okay.
be vicariously running their company.
Okay. Was the strangest or most unusual pitch you have ever encountered from a founder?
It looked unusual at that time when somebody was trying to sell me an agricultural robot.
Agricultural robot.
But this is like 6 years ago.
Yeah. If you could have a superpower that would help you as an angel investor, what would it be?
The superpower that if I had would be to actually convince more people to become angel investors. Okay, real angel investors, not small ticket investors, but real angel investors where they bring money, like which is skin in the game, and their mindset and mind share.
If you could trade places with any entrepreneur for a day, who would it be and why?
Somebody like a Vijay Shekhar, maybe, to do the, because I love fintech in that sense, or somebody like Mohit from Chalo. So he's building a company step by step. So I love the way, and this is his second large company. So
your favorite quote or line that is your motivation mantra?
So I personally, believe in when the going gets tough, the tough get going.
Okay.
So I personally believe that you get tested when the things are tough. So the question which I would want you to ask whoever is
the next guest,
your next guest, would be something on the lines of, where would you build your next startup? So if you were doing a startup, if it's a startup founder, or if it's an investor, I want to know, where would they build their next startup? And don't mean it nationalistically, the Indians will build in India or whatever. I mean, what's the best place and why?
Okay. Thank you very much for doing this. And I really loved it. I really enjoyed it. And I think our viewers would find it insightful. Thank you very much.
Raman, good to see you. Thank you.
And for all my viewers, let us know what you liked about this show in the comment section and who you want to see as our next guest. Do share, subscribe, and like this podcast, as we want to reach out to as many people as possible with these learnings. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in my next podcast. Thank you.